Hello and welcome to I Helped Make That. So, in the beginning of May, we talked about Guardians of the Galaxy, a theme park ride. Then we talked about Casino, cinema. And now we're going to be talking about The Room, a movie I'm not sure can be classified. Is it a theme park ride? Is it cinema? Who knows? It's something.
It's an occult classic.
Mhm. Yeah, but we've heard many stories about the making of The Room. Most of them have been from the actors. The most well-known example is The Disaster Artist, which was both a book and a movie. But
Which
one point
eh,
one point of view we haven't we haven't heard from as much is from the people who are in charge of the soundtrack. Today, we are going to be talking to one of the singers of the many songs heard throughout the room, Clint. Is it June?
Clint June.
Right, Clint June. Thanks for coming on, Clint.
No problem. That's
Be- Before we begin, though, we have to get the anchor ad out of the way. So, do you want to create your own podcast and you don't know how? If so, try Anchor today because Anchor is the easiest podcasting platform to use. All you do is sign up for an account and then you can post on Apple Podcast, Spotify, all those platforms. So, if you want to create your own podcast, try Anchor today. And also, support one of Tommy's many shady businesses, like his underwear and whatever that Shakespeare themed commercial that you can find on YouTube he had was supposed to promote.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
But let us get back to The Room. So, thanks again for coming on, Clint.
You're welcome.
Now, Clint, how did you get involved in The Room?
Okay, so this all started. This was so long ago. So this is kind of like a history lesson, if you will. I was 18 years old, I believe, at the time, and or maybe I was a little older. Maybe I was a little older, but I know I wasn't old enough to get into bars yet. Um, but I was involved with a couple other people that I used to sing with from time to time, and sometimes we would work on writing projects or whatnot. Only a few of them, and The Room was one of them. And um, I was connected to Tommy through the people that I was working with, and from there it was kind of go. It was like an impromptu, uh, almost like an impromptu audition, because like it was we were meeting him, but at the same time we kind of sang on the spot in the little booth, in the recording booth that he had there. And the place we met him was so strange. It was someplace in LA. Um, it was someplace in LA. It that it was like one of those um, liquor store, like a bunch of stores in one of those parking lots. I forget what you call it, but anyways, we met him in one of those spaces. I think he rented out the space, and they had a bunch of equipment in there, like music equipment and TV equipment and all kinds of stuff. And um, we met him, and then he had like all this broken English speaking that he was doing. I couldn't understand him really at first when I met him, so I had to like really listen to what he was saying because he had this really heavy accent, and all I remember is that he showed us bits and pieces of the movie where he wanted the music to go over, and it was crazy because when we were watching the scenes, we're like, oh no, we're gonna be singing. And at the time, I was so innocent and so young. I was into church and all kinds of stuff, so they were showing us the love scenes and everything, and I was like, oh no, people are gonna hear my voice over these love scenes with nudity.
Well, did you notice that in those love scenes he was fucking her belly button and
I did, I couldn't. It was. I couldn't. We went to the premiere, and I couldn't bring myself. I couldn't, even when he was showing us before we recorded the songs, and he was showing us the scenes. It was so like hard to watch because it was like um the I don't want to say the anything mean because I don't mean this to be mean, but the acting was so like the acting was just different, and it was hard to like really get into it. It was very cringe worthy, that I will say. I was cringing so hard that I couldn't when we went to the premiere, and I just felt so bad for Tommy because you could tell that in his mind he he totally was viewing this as something different than everybody else was viewing this as. In his mind, he had this masterpiece, right? And everybody at the premiere, it was just like people were cracking jokes and laughing. Tommy was getting drunk, and he was in the front row, standing up, turning around, telling everybody to shut up. And it was kind of bad. And I felt so bad for him because I know that this project, the intention for the project was for it to be something great, which kind of did turn out to be something great, kind of, in its own right, in its own fifth dimensional, in another dimension, it turned out amazing, but uh, the way it turned out great was not the way he intended, that's for sure.
Yeah, but before we talk about the movie, and there's much to talk about, were you in charge of writing the lyrics or just singing?
I wrote a couple of the tracks. I wasn't in charge. I don't want to go on record saying that I was the one, making it all happen. I was one of the pawns, if you will, um, in this game of chess of the room. And I was one of the writers on a couple of the songs, and on one of the songs, I was the um, one of the lead vocals on the duet. Now there were a couple when they came out with the CD. They had a CD that came out. You could buy it in Tower Records. I don't even think that record store even exists anymore. But you could buy the CD. They had it for sale at Tower Records and a few other record stores. But there were typos on that when I opened it because I was one of those people that when I bought a CD, I always wanted to open up the booklet and to look for the lyrics and to see who wrote whatever it was. And so when I I can't remember if I purchased it or they gave us a free copy, but there was typos because I opened it and I looked at it and it said that I was a singer on one of the songs, that I wasn't actually the singer, and they put me as the writer. And that song, I actually wasn't a writer and wasn't a singer on it. I was a writer. That one was I Will. I believe that song, that record, that one I was not the vocalist or writer for that song. I was the writer for um and co-singer of the duet of Baby You and Me. I think that's what it was called. It's been so long ago. Um but I did write that one, and I did and which there was, I believe there was another typo on that. I don't know. They didn't get everything right, but yes, I was one of the writers. No, I was not in charge. This lady by the name of Kitra Williams, she was one of the people who assumed, who she pretty much assumed the leadership role over that, and then on top of a couple other people, who the people who produced the actual music, they also were um a part of it. Uh, and it's crazy. We didn't really get paid much for it, and because at the time we weren't thinking it was going to be as big of a was.
Hmm.
We
Well,
literally paid peanuts to do the music.
oh my god, how much did you get paid?
I remember I got paid $50,
Wow, but how
and
was
look
it?
where it is now.
Yeah, but okay, how was it? Besides knowing where what the context was of the scenes, like how was it at least recording the songs themselves?
That part is for me. That part is always, I'm a music person, so being in the studio, that's where I live. Um, So and at the time being really young, any project that I could get into a recording studio, it was like I'm there, So I didn't think to blink twice about it. Like like if this scenario were to happen now, if the room hadn't happened yet, and they come to me as an adult, I probably would think twice, at least to negotiate something a little bit better. You never know what could what thing, you never know what could happen with anything. It could
Hmm.
be that you would never expect to become big, and just like when people post crazy things on TikTok or any social media platform, and then all of a sudden one day viral, and they didn't think it would go viral, but it did. So this was kind of like one of those things that went viral. It not necessarily for the reason they would want it to go viral, but it went viral, so it was like that. So I loved the fact that I was able to be, at the time, being a young artist, just being a part of projects to keep me busy and to gain experience, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, so you're at least happy, that it went viral, but when you first heard that it had gained this cult following, were you kind of thinking, wait, really? That movie?
Yeah, exactly. Because people came to me. Yeah, okay. I did American. This is how I knew that the movie was getting a big fuss, because I did American Idol. I auditioned for that 2000 in 2011, which was season 10. I auditioned for American Idol and I made it to the top 24. And so even some of my friends from high school who were big followers of the room, they used to go to the one night a month showing that they used to do in Hollywood, I believe it was. And it would kind of be like the Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of thing, where people would like, it would be an interactive movie, and they would go, and I think there was a part of the movie where they would throw spoons at the screen even. Um, so it was kind of like this Rocky Horror Picture thing. And I never got a chance to go to one of those showings. Unfortunately, I really, really wanted to a few times, but my schedule um,
Mhm.
time didn't permit it. Um, but um, where I was going with this, I lost my train of thought here. Um, but yeah.
You were saying how you found out.
Oh yes, yes, yes. I found out at the time that when I was doing American Idol, that's when I found out that the room was such a big fuss because some of my friends from school, they would message me and they said, "Hey, you we were you a part of this movie called The Room? Did you do the music for it?" And I was like, "What? How did you even know about that? Who even knows about that movie?" I never thought anything was going to come of that movie ever. I just thought we just did that for fun and they paid us $50. And you know what I mean? I was young, inexperienced, trying to gain experience, and then all of a sudden all these I do American Idol and all these people start messaging me about The Room. This lady from Yahoo messaged me. Her name is Lindsay Parker. She messaged me um, to do an interview, and part of that interview was talking about The Room. And when she brought up those questions, I was like, wait a minute, how do you even know about this? How, like, and then everyone starts telling me the movie blew up somehow. I'm like, what do you mean? And then come to find out, there's a whole nother movie about that movie, and from what you mentioned, a book as well. I'm just now hearing about the book, so I'm like, wow, there's a book. So there's a lot of things that it's just like one of those things that if you were a part of it and um, you stepped away from it because you didn't think anything was going to happen, it's one of those things that really comes, it's like almost one of those things that comes back to bite you in the ass, but not necessarily in a bad way, but just very surprisingly. Like, what? I didn't even, it's almost like full circle, but I can't even really call it full circle because I don't know. I didn't meet everyone that later became involved with it. So I can't really say it's full circle, but kind of. Um,
Mhm.
that makes any sense.
No, it does. So j- just out of curiosity, do you have any idea of why you think the room may? Uh, do you have any idea of why you think the room persists as it does?
Um, I think it was just one of those things that got lucky because, you know, or it could have just been maybe Tommy really did know some people, maybe he pulled some got a few strings that he was able to pull and somehow it landed in the right hands to even become um an occult classic. Because you know some things they say, it's like a dime a dozen. And for this to be such a low budget project, it had to have been one of those things where it just like landed in the right hands. I can't see it. I can't see this movie like being something that um what it at the time I didn't see it as something that would have advanced. I don't know how on earth. It's a mystery. Let's just go on record saying it's a mystery to how this movie persists as it does. It's
Yeah.
totally a mystery, and it's actually pretty cool because the fact that I'm a part of something that even got this kind of a fuss, it's kind of cool because I get to tell interesting stories about it, and people get to ask interesting questions about it. And it's not something that annoys me when they do. Like, for instance, when people just always ask me about singing or music, right? This is actually an interesting story that I get to talk about when people ask me questions about it. And it's a cool. It was definitely a cool experience. Um, to find out to be a part of something so small that became so huge. It's actually a really cool experience. So
Yeah. Well, I think the reason the room persists as it does is because, there are many like small bad movies out in the world that no one really cares about or gives the time of day.
right,
But
like those Wayne's World movies, or or Jay and Silent Bob, like those kind of movies. It's like those. If, to me, it's like those kind of movies where it doesn't actually. There's no real purpose to the movie, but just to be like, I don't know, maybe a stoner movie or something like that. I'm pretty sure that's not what Tommy Wiseau intended it to be, but it's kind of one of those types of movies where it's just like you put it on and it's in the background and there you go.
yeah, but I guess what I mean is like I think the reason the room persists as it does is because the whole thing is just such a how do I say this? I think the room persists as it does because it's such a on the surface normal movie that but with like weird dialogue because it comes from the mind of such a strange person. Like if you just looked at, I don't know, a still of the movie and you didn't know what it was from, you'd probably just think it was like some Lifetime movie, you know?
With no sound or anything, yeah, it would probably look like some type of Lifetime movie.
Yeah. But then, you put the sound on it and then you hear
The
all
di-
the dialogue, which sometimes sounds like it's written by a space alien. Other times sounds like it's written by a 10-year-old who watched Fatal Attraction and thought he could make a movie like it.
and, okay, and I never really understood the role of I did not really understand the role of anyone, but I didn't understand the role of the young kid that was like the mix. I never understood that what was going on there. That part was always like, why is
Yeah,
this
there's no
this character probably could have they could probably could have went without that character in the movie. But I don't know, it was very confusing.
yeah, I think that's just the whole movie just feels like a bunch of rambling. There's a lot of scenes that have like nothing to really do with the plot.
Yeah,
Honestly, if you cut out the scenes that have nothing to do with the plot, you'd probably have like an hour long movie.
right, which probably would have been better. Probably would have been better if he would have just cut out those scenes and just made it for an hour.
Yeah, but unfortunately, feature length movies have to be like at least 1 hour and 20 minutes, I believe. I
Yeah,
think that's like the minimum.
yeah, for the silver for the big screen,
Yeah.
because nobody's gonna pay 15 to 20 bucks to sit there and watch an hour of a movie.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, there was speaking of bad movies, Meet the Spartans. Like, it has like several like scenes during the credits, and you take those scenes out, it's like less than an hour long. I think it's like 59 minutes without those scenes.
Yeah, the credits and the previews and stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, stu- uh, sometimes studios are always trying to like beefing up their movies, to make sure they get to 1 hour and 20 minutes. But back to just the room in general, like I think it persists as it does because it's the ramblings of a man who just seems so strange, and I think it just attracts people.
Yeah, it's like a train wreck, I guess.
Hmm.
Can't look away. It's
Hmm.
so bad, can't look away.
Like if it was just a mediocre romantic drama, no one would care.
No. Yeah.
But and we wouldn't be talking about it.
No, definitely. And that's crazy. I feel like it's this, this many years later and people are still talking about The Room. People
Mhm.
are talking about it this many years later. And we did that project when I'm that's like over 20 years ago. For 20 years for 20 years people have been talking about this movie, and that's crazy to think about. It's like it's timeless. It's almost timeless. I want to say
Mhm.
for people to be, that's like people still talking about that's, it's almost like every year when All I Want for Christmas Is You around Christmas, you're going to hear it. So it's like every year, you're going to hear something about The Room because people are still watching it. People are still watching The Disaster Artist. People are still talking about it. I don't know what and where Tommy Wiseau is up to nowadays. I have no idea, but if he's in a cave somewhere, I don't know. But um, it would be interesting. It would be interesting at this point if um, I don't know if it's ever been done, and maybe I don't know if it could be done, but it would be interesting if he did some sort of a strange follow up with that for them to do another sort of spin off.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, Greg Sestero, the director, I'm not sorry, the guy who played Mark,
Yeah.
he actually directed a movie with Tommy, 2 movies called Best Friends, where it's sort of like he's like a drifter and Tommy is this like strange guy who sort of picks him up and like then Greg, who's the drifter, sort of wonders whether or not Tommy's character is actually all he seems. As I remember, the first one was okay. The second one I didn't like as much. But there's that. And I know they're making another movie together called Big Shark.
Oh, but those ones haven't um got as much attention as The Room. For some reason, The Room was the one.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one. So imagine years later they come out with like The Room 2 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but honestly, you know, just back to the room. Sometimes movies have that special something that makes them stick out. I mean, look how many movies have been like up for Oscars or even won them, right? And then no one talks about them a few years later.
Right. They don't. That's crazy. They don't. There's so many movies like the Titanic. That one has gotten so many awards. Just thinking of like an old movie off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That one, but nobody really talks about that one nowadays.
I'm not exactly sure that that's true. I think that one actually has some cultural relevance. I'm thinking more like The Artist.
Oh yes, yes.
And yeah, that's one example. Or the the theory of everything.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, but like you don't really see people talking about that movie anymore.
Right.
Or there are some movies like that either even either even try to be bad or people just judge it for being bad, but then like years later no one talks about it. Like what, Sharknado has like what, 5
Oh, not
sequels?
Tomato.
But when's the last time you've really seen people talk about the Sharknado movies?
I know. Or there was another one with the piranhas. Have you seen
Oh,
that?
no.
Yeah, that one was also another really, really bad movie that I think they intended it to be bad because they even had like some kind of like a couple, uh, let's say B-list celebrities
Hmm.
because they weren't necessarily A-listers, but they're definitely not C and D listers. So we're just gonna go with the B listers. They had a couple B-lister actors in that movie, and but I feel like it was one of those movies that they're intentionally trying to make it bad, uh,
Hmm.
and it just didn't. Nobody's talking about it now.
Hmm. Yeah, or there's movies like The Internet. Even if like they didn't even try to make a bad movie on purpose, like The Internet just takes one look at and predetermines to be bad, and then like years later no one talks about it anymore, and I'm just like, why did you waste your energy on this movie? Like the Emoji Movie comes to mind. People were like, they made a movie about emojis, how could they? And it got bad reviews. No one talks about it anymore. I'm like, looking back, I'm just like, why did you care about this movie so much?
and and obviously the room is something to talk about because people are still talking about it. So
Hmm.
it's obviously something to talk about.
Yep. So I think that is the perfect place to end. So thanks again, Clint, for coming on.
You're welcome.
Now, Clint, where can we find you?
Um, you could follow me on Instagram, Clint June.
Hmm.
Uh, also, mostly everything is Clint June. You can look me up on Facebook. Although my Twitter is the real Clint June. That's my Twitter handle because I had to change it because there was all these different accounts with my name, and I was just like, I better specify which one is mine. So yeah, I have music. I don't have anything new right now, unfortunately, but I do have music that I previously released um, um, on iTunes, Spotify, uh, all the things with music on.
Okay, sounds great. Well, anyway, that was I Help Make That, and I'll see you all later.
And I will stand in the way of a bullet. I will run